The arrival, the great academy of interstellar knowledge, stood like a shining jewel in the middle of space. It was built on a vast station that circled a quiet blue star. Students from hundreds of alien worlds came here to study, learn, and exchange ideas. Some came to master advanced science. Others came to learn about culture, diplomacy, or medicine. But one young alien student had chosen something unusual. He had come to study humans. His name was Kethar, a student of the Valen species. The Valens were tall, with smooth silver skin and large black eyes that could see far into the dark. They were logical, calm, and careful in all things. Their world was ordered. Their lives were predictable. To them, nature followed rules that never changed, and Kethar believed the same, until the day he arrived at the academy. The docking bay buzzed with activity as new students entered the station. Kethar carried only a thin bag, filled with study tablets and notes. His heart, if it could be called a heart, beat with nervous curiosity. He had heard rumors about humans. They were strange, unpredictable, and full of energy. Some aliens feared them, some admired them, but everyone agreed humans were different. As Kethar walked through the academy halls, he saw banners that displayed the year's studies. Advanced warp mechanics, alien diplomacy, stellar agriculture. And then one banner caught his eyes: human studies, biology, and behavior. His path was clear. He would learn what made this strange species so important. The classroom was filled with beings of many shapes. A pair of insect-like Turians clicked their mandibles in excitement. A scaled reptilian from the Threx Empire sat silently in the corner, but most eyes turned when the subject of humans was mentioned. It was as if the word itself carried weight. The professor entered. He was old, his robe dark with golden lines of rank. His name was Professor Rezil, a respected scholar who had studied dozens of species. His voice was calm but strong. "Today," he said, "we begin a new cycle of human studies. You must understand, humans are not like others. They do not follow the same patterns you know. You will find them fascinating and dangerous." Kethar's curiosity burned brighter. He leaned forward, eager to hear more. But instead of giving answers, the professor gave warnings. Do not assume you can predict humans. Do not assume they are limited by the same boundaries as your own species. Their biology holds secrets that even now cause debate across the galaxy. Kethar raised a hand. His voice trembled slightly as he asked, "Professor, what kind of secrets? Why are humans studied with such caution?" The professor looked at him for a long moment. Then, instead of answering, he simply said, "Patience, young one. In time, you will see. But be prepared. What you learn may unsettle you." The classroom whispered with tension. The alien students exchanged glances. What could possibly make a species so unsettling? Kethar's mind raced. He wanted to know. He needed to know. Later, as the class ended, Kethar walked through the library halls of the station. Strange statues of alien thinkers lined the walls, their eyes carved as if they stared into endless time. He sat at a learning console and tried to search for human data. But much of the information was locked, access restricted. He found only fragments: human history, human wars, human art. All of it showed one thing: humans were restless, always changing, never still. But one line of text caught his attention. Humans do not have a mating season. Kethar blinked, his large black eyes. That could not be true. Every species he knew had cycles. Times of fertility, times of rest. Without such order, chaos would rule. He read the line again. The data did not explain further, but his mind was already spinning. If humans had no season, did that mean they were always fertile? The thought unsettled him deeply. He pushed away from the console, trying to calm himself. Maybe it was a mistranslation. Maybe the data was wrong. But the more he thought about it, the more the question burned inside him. Why would the Academy warn them so strongly about humans? Why would so much information be hidden? And why, out of all things, did their biology cause such debate? As Kethar walked back to his quarters, he felt the weight of mystery pressing down on him. The stars outside the station glowed cold and distant, but inside his mind was alive with fire. He whispered softly to himself, "Humans, what are you hiding? What makes you so different?" That night, he could not rest. Every sound of the station felt louder, every shadow felt closer. For the first time in his careful life, Kethar felt something strange, something humans called anticipation. The beginning of a discovery that might change everything he believed about life in the Sing galaxy, and so his journey had begun. The alien student had arrived, but what he was about to learn would shake him, and perhaps the entire academy, to the core. First observation. The next day at the academy began with a soft hum across the station. The great bells of the learning halls rang with a low tone calling students to their lectures. Kethar, the Valon student, rose early. He had not rested well. His mind kept circling back to that single sentence he had found in the archives. Humans do not have a mating season. The thought disturbed him. It was unnatural, chaotic. Every species he knew, his own people, the Threx reptiles, the Turian insectoids, followed strict patterns. Fertility came once a year, sometimes once in a decade depending on the species. This order kept balance in life. It allowed resources to be prepared, families to plan, and societies to grow in harmony with nature. Without such cycles, how could a species survive? Kethar walked through the polished corridors of the academy, passing beings of all shapes and colors. Some drifted on thin wings, others crawled on multiple limbs, but all of them in their own way obeyed the seasons of life. Only the humans were whispered about as exceptions. He entered the biology hall. The room was wide and filled with shining glass panels, each one displaying images of different species. Today, the subject was comparative reproduction. Professor Razel stood at the front, his robe flowing as he gestured toward a massive hologram in the air. "Students," he began, "you have studied the reproductive patterns of the Jalari, who breed once every 50 years. You know the Threxians, who guard their eggs fiercely during their rare seasons, but today—" He paused, letting silence fall across the room. "We speak of humans." Every alien in the hall stirred. Whispers buzzed. The Turians clicked their mandibles nervously. Even the reptilian Threxian shifted his heavy tail, his golden eyes narrowing with interest. Kethar leaned forward, his heart pounding. This was the moment. The professor spoke slowly. "Humans are unlike any other intelligent species we have studied. Their males produce fertile seed at all times. Their females have cycles, yes, but far more frequent than any other race. In truth, compared to us, they are always ready." A wave of shock spread through the hall. Some gasped, others laughed in disbelief. But Kethar froze. His suspicion had been confirmed. Humans, always fertile, always capable of producing life? It sounded impossible, but the professor's voice was steady. One student raised a trembling hand. "But, Professor, if they are always fertile, then when do they rest? When does their species find balance?" Professor Russell's eyes darkened. "They do not rest. That is their nature. Humans live in constant potential, in constant readiness. Their biology does not wait for the universe's permission." The hall fell silent again. The idea seemed too strange to accept. Kethar's thoughts swirled. No wonder so much information was locked away. No wonder the galaxy feared them. He imagined billions of humans, each one capable of producing new life at any time. A flood without limit. A chaos that could overwhelm entire worlds. Yet part of him was also fascinated. He wanted proof. He wanted to see it with his own eyes. After the lecture, when the others left, Kethar stayed behind. His black eyes fixed on the professor. "Is it really true?" he asked quietly. "Humans never stop being fertile?" Professor Razel looked at him carefully. "You are curious, Kethar. That is good. But curiosity about humans can be dangerous. Their biology is only the beginning. There are reasons why many governments restrict knowledge of them. Reasons why even here, in this academy, we must step with caution. But why hide the truth? Cathar pressed. His voice shook with both fear and eagerness. Because, Rezel said, lowering his tone, what you learn may change the way you see every law of nature, and not every mind can carry that weight. The professor turned away, ending the discussion. But his words only deepened Cathar's determination. That evening, Cathar went to the observation wing. From there, students could study recorded holograms of different species. He searched for human files. Most were restricted, but one unlocked folder appeared. Behavioral Studies, Earth. He opened it. Holograms flickered to life. He saw images of humans walking in crowded cities, farming in fields, laughing in groups, fighting in wars. But what struck him most was not their technology or culture. It was their energy. Humans looked alive in a way he had never seen. Restless, emotional, always moving forward. Another file showed human families. Children running, parents guiding them, young adults pairing freely without waiting for a season. It was true. They did not wait for nature's call. They chose for themselves. Cathar's hands trembled as he closed the hologram. To him, this was freedom, but also danger, a species that could grow without limit, a species that did not follow nature's rules. As he left the wing, he overheard two alien students whispering. They say humans spread too quickly, one said. They say entire planets fear their growth, said the other. That is why the Galactic Council watches them. Cathar's blood ran cold. This was bigger than curiosity. The truth about humans was tied to power, politics, and fear. Back in his quarters, he stared out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, the home of this strange, unstoppable species. His mind was torn between dread and wonder. If this is only one fact about humans, he thought, what other secrets are waiting? For the first time, Cathar felt something new. Not just curiosity, but a sense of danger. The humans were not just another species to be studied. They were something greater, something that could change the galaxy itself, and he, Cathar the student, had just taken his first step into that truth. The academy grew quieter in the late hours, but Cathar's mind did not rest. The discovery about humans had shaken him. His people, the Valens, had always believed the universe followed order. Seasons brought change, then balance returned. But humans broke this rule. They were fertile without pause, a constant stream of potential life. All night, Cathar turned this truth over in his mind. How could such a species survive without collapsing? Why had the professor spoken in warnings instead of clear lessons? And why did other students whisper with fear when humans were mentioned? By morning, Cathar had made a decision. He would ask directly. He needed answers, not rumors. He would face the professor again. The next lecture began as usual. Students filled the wide learning chamber, the air thick with quiet excitement. Today's subject was interstellar comparisons of life cycles. The hologram above the professor shifted from insect-like aliens to cold-blooded reptiles, then to soft-skinned mammals. Professor Rezel spoke calmly, his golden-lined robe moving as he paced. All intelligent species carry cycles: birth, growth, rest, renewal. It is a rhythm written into nature itself. The students nodded, for they knew this truth well. But Cathar sat with restless energy. He felt the moment approaching. When the professor finished explaining the Jalari breeding patterns, Cathar raised his hand, his black eyes fixed on Raziel, his voice steady but bold. "Professor," he said, "yesterday you spoke of humans. You said they do not follow the rhythm of nature. Is it true then that human males are always fertile?" The question dropped like a stone into water. The chamber filled with whispers. The Turian insects clicked nervously. The Threx reptilian hissed under his breath. Every student turned their eyes to the professor. Raziel stopped walking. For a long moment he said nothing. His old face was unreadable, his eyes distant. Then he spoke, voice low but firm. "Who told you this, student?" Cathar straightened, his back. "The archives. The files spoke of it, but they were incomplete. I want the truth." The professor's gaze hardened. "Be careful, Cathar. Curiosity about humans is not without danger." "But why?" Cathar pressed. His voice carried more force now, his silver skin glowing faintly in the light. "Why should knowledge of a species be dangerous? Are they not flesh and blood like us? If their biology is different, then should we not study it, not hide it?" A silence followed. The air felt heavy. Even the walls of the chamber seemed to listen. Finally, Professor Russell sighed. He closed the hologram with a sweep of his hand, leaving the room in dim light. Then he stepped closer to the students. "Yes," he said slowly. "It is true. Human males are fertile every moment of their lives, from the time they reach maturity until their final days. And their females, while not constant, cycle far more often than any other known intelligent species. In effect, they are nearly always capable of creating new life." Gasps spread through the hall. Some students laughed nervously. Others looked horrified. "But that means," a Turian student stammered, "that means their population could grow without limit." "Exactly," Russell replied. "And that, young ones, is why the galaxy fears them." The word struck Cathar like a blade. The galaxy fears them. He tried to picture it. Entire planets filled with humans, spreading across space like fire. Unlike his people, who birthed children, once in a lifetime, humans could fill ships, cities, whole worlds in a single generation. No barrier held them back. But the question inside him only grew. He raised his voice once more. "Professor, why does this truth disturb you? Why warn us instead of teaching openly? Why do governments lock away their files?" The professor's face darkened. He looked around the chamber as if weighing whether to speak further. Then, in a tone sharper than before, he said, "Because, Cathar, humans are not only fertile in body. They are fertile in mind, in spirit. They do not wait for cycles. They do not pause for nature. They push forward, always. They invent, they adapt, they survive. They do not stop." The room felt colder. Cathar's chest tightened. Razil continued, his voice heavy with warning. "You must understand. When humans first reached the stars, many thought they would burn out quickly. Instead, they multiplied, not just in number, but in ideas. While others waited for permission from the universe, humans built paths of their own. Their fertility is not just in biology, it is in everything they touch." The hall was silent. No student dared interrupt. Cathar's mind spun. He thought of his people, careful and slow, waiting for seasons to guide them. He thought of humans, moving without pause, choosing for themselves. But still, he was not satisfied. "Professor?" he asked one last time, his voice softer. "Does this mean humans are dangerous? Or does it mean they are strong?" The professor studied him with sharp eyes. At last he answered, "That depends on who you ask. To some, humans are a miracle, life unchained. To others, they are a threat, a force without restraint. The truth is, both are correct." After class ended, Cathar remained seated. The other students left in hushed tones, their minds heavy with fear. But Cathar's mind burned with something else, wonder. He whispered to himself, "Humans are not bound. They are always ready." But what else does that mean? The professor's warnings echoed in his ears, but instead of fear, Cathar felt a pull, like a star's gravity. He wanted to know more. No, he needed to know more. That night, in the silence of his quarters, Cathar opened his journal. He wrote in careful strokes, Day 3, question asked, answer confirmed. Humans do not wait for nature. They live outside the rhythm. If true, then the galaxy is right to fear them. But I cannot fear them. Not yet. I must see with my own eyes. I must understand. He set down the pen, his hands trembling. The stars outside the window seemed brighter, closer. Somewhere among them was Earth, the origin of this endless fertility, this endless will. Cathar closed his eyes and whispered, "Tomorrow, I will find the truth myself." The question had been asked, and the answer had shaken him. But deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The true weight of humanity's secret had yet to be revealed. The discovery, the Academy's halls glowed with soft blue light as the cycle of learning came to an end. Students drifted back to their quarters, their minds buzzing with the professor's heavy words. But Cathar could not rest. His chest burned with questions that refused to be silent. Humans, always fertile, always ready. It was more than biology. The professor had hinted it was tied to everything about them, their spirit, their endless drive. But the truth was only spoken in fragments, half-secrets wrapped in warnings. Cathar needed more. He needed proof. He walked slowly back to his room, but his feet did not stop there. Instead, he turned toward the restricted archives, a place most students avoided. Only scholars with special permission could enter. Its doors were guarded by glowing runes of energy and silent drones that scanned every visitor. But Cathar had been watching for days, studying the patterns. He knew that late in the night cycle, the drones powered down for maintenance. For a short time, the doors remained unguarded. Tonight, he would take the risk. The corridors were quiet. Only the hum of the station filled the silence. Cathar's long fingers brushed against the cold walls as he moved in shadows. His silver skin reflected faint light, but he covered himself in a dark cloak to hide his glow. His black eyes darted left and right. Every step felt louder than it should, echoing like thunder in his ears. When he reached the archive doors, his heart raced. The glowing runes pulsed softly, scanning the empty hall. For a moment, Cathar hesitated. This was forbidden. If he were caught, his studies would end, his people would shame him, and he might even be sent home in disgrace. But the thought of not knowing was worse. He waited. At last, the drones drifted away, their lights dimming as they powered down. The runes flickered, then faded into stillness. The path was open. Cathar pressed his hand against the door. It slid open with a quiet hiss. He stepped inside. The archive was vast, a cathedral of knowledge. Tall shelves rose high into the air, filled with glowing data crystals. Holographic screens floated in silence, each one holding records of species across the galaxy. The air was cool, filled with the scent of old metals and stored energy. Cathar's eyes widened. He felt like he was walking into a forbidden temple. He searched for the section marked Human Studies. Many rows were locked, their crystals glowing, with red seals. But further down, he found a chamber hidden in shadow. The sign above it read, Level 3 Restrictions, Access Denied, Perfect. That was where the truth waited. He knelt before the sealed console. His hand shook as he removed a small device from his bag. Phalans were skilled in logic and patterns, and Cathar had studied encryption as part of his training. He pressed the device into the console. Symbols flickered, locks clicked, and after long minutes of tense silence, the seal broke. The chamber opened. Inside were glowing spheres of data. Cathar touched one, and the air filled with holograms. Humans. He saw images of their bodies. Muscular, fragile, yet strong. He saw records of their cycles, their endless ability to reproduce, the constant rhythm of life within them. He read reports from alien scholars. Unlike most species, human males are fertile at all times. Females, though cycling, can conceive year-round. This lack of restriction makes their population growth unpredictable and, at times, uncontrollable. Another file appeared. Human settlements expand faster than expected, Even in harsh environments, their numbers grow rapidly. They adapt, survive, and continue without pause. Kethar's breath caught. This was the truth, raw and undeniable. But there was more. He opened another crystal. This one was different. A report written not by scientists, but by military observers. The danger of human fertility lies not only in numbers. Their constant readiness fuels their aggression, their ambition, their innovation. They expand like wildfire. In war, their ability to replace losses quickly gives them a terrifying advantage. Many empires have underestimated this, only to suffer defeat. Kethar's eyes widened. He imagined fleets of humans, endless soldiers, endless workers, endless children growing to fill their ranks, a species that never slowed, never stopped. But another crystal showed something else, a softer truth. Human fertility is not only about survival, it shapes their culture. Families form quickly, bonds grow deep, and their emotions run strong. Love, desire, loyalty, all are tied to this constant readiness. It gives them passion unlike any other species. It makes them unpredictable, yes, but also resilient. Kethar trembled. Fear and awe mixed in his chest. These were not just creatures of chaos. They were creatures of possibility, a race that could spread endlessly but also love endlessly. A race that did not wait for nature but carried nature's fire within them. He leaned back, overwhelmed. His black eyes reflected the glow of the holograms. This, he whispered, this changes everything. Suddenly a sound echoed behind him. Kethar froze. Footsteps. He quickly shut the hologram and pulled his cloak tight. His heart pounded as he slipped into the shadows. The door hissed open and two figures entered. They wore the robes of senior scholars. Their voices were hushed but sharp. Another request from the council, one muttered. They want all human fertility files restricted further. Too much information is leaking. The council fears panic, the other replied. If the younger races knew the truth, many would demand human isolation. Some would even call for extermination. Kethar's blood ran cold. Extermination? Fear of humans was so deep that some spoke of destroying them entirely. The scholars moved deeper into the chamber, unaware of his presence. Kethar held his breath until they left, then slipped out silently. Back in his quarters, Kethar collapsed, onto his bed, his mind spinning. He had seen the truth with his own eyes. Humans were not bound by seasons, not chained by cycles. Their fertility made them limitless. It gave them power that terrified governments, scholars, and empires. But Kethar also saw something else, something the council feared to admit. Their fertility was not only danger, it was also beauty. It gave them passion, creativity, and love. It made them unstoppable not just in war, but in life itself. He wrote again in his journal. Day 4. The discovery is real. Humans are always ready, not only in body but in spirit. The galaxy fears them, but I cannot. I see danger, yes, but also wonder. Perhaps the council hides the truth because they cannot accept it. Perhaps they fear what it means that humans are more than just another race. They are a force of nature. He set down the pen, his hands shaking. The stars outside seemed brighter, burning with silent fire. Kethar whispered to himself, if humans can break the rules of nature in this way, what else might they break? The question haunted him as sleep finally claimed him. But even in dreams, the discovery echoed. Humans are always ready. Always. Shock and fear. The academy was never truly silent. Even in the deepest hours of the night cycle, soft echoes of footsteps and the hum of machinery filled the long corridors. But on this day, something else filled the air. Whispers. It began small. A few students spoke in low voices near the dining hall. Then, in the library, others repeated the same strange rumor. By the time the learning bells rang, the entire academy was buzzing with one question. Is it true? Are humans always fertile? Kethar walked among them, his cloak wrapped tightly around him. He could hear the voices, sharp and fearful. He had not spoken a word of what he had seen in the restricted archives, but somehow the truth was escaping. Perhaps another had entered the files. Perhaps the professors themselves had let slip too much. Whatever the reason, the secret was no longer safe. He passed a group of insectoid churians. Their mandibles clicked nervously as one hissed. If it is true, then they are not natural. No species should be like that. It is wrong. Another whispered back. Wrong. No, it is dangerous. Imagine an army that never stops growing. Imagine colonies that double in size before others can even prepare. Nearby, a scaled Threx reptilian slammed his heavy tail against the floor. It is not natural, he growled. It is a weapon. Perhaps they were made this way. Perhaps the humans were designed for war. Cathar kept his head down, but his mind churned. Every word he heard was twisted in fear. None of them spoke of beauty, of family, of love. To them, humans were monsters, creatures that broke the rules of the galaxy. The lecture hall that day was tense. Professor Razil entered as always, his robe heavy with golden lines, but the usual calm in his voice was gone. He looked older, his eyes tired. I know the rumors, he said at once, his voice carrying through the chamber. I know what you whisper. Yes, humans are fertile beyond season. Yes, it is true. But I warn you, fear will blind you faster than ignorance. Do not make them demons in your mind. But his words did little to calm the hall. Students shouted questions. Why has the council hidden this? Are they planning to control humanity? Shouldn't they be contained before they spread too far? The noise grew until the professor raised his hand sharply. Silence fell, but the fear lingered, heavy and sharp like a blade. Understand this, Razil said. Humans are not numbers on a chart. They are people. They laugh, they suffer, they dream, just as you do. Their fertility is a truth of nature, but what they choose to do with it, that is the question. And it is a question no archive can answer. Cathar sat frozen, his black eyes wide. Around him, the other students shifted restlessly, their thoughts filled with dread. He felt the weight of his secret pressing harder. He had seen the deeper truth in the archives, the reports of war and passion, of both danger and beauty. And though others had only fragments, and from those fragments they built monsters. Later in the dining hall, the fear became louder. They will overrun the stars, one alien said. They will drown us in their children. Another hissed. Perhaps the council should act now before it is too late. Cathar clenched his fists. His people, the Valens, had always taught calm logic, but here he saw only panic. No one asked how humans lived, how they loved, how they built families. No one asked if this fertility gave them strength in more than war. They saw only shadows. That evening, as he walked back to his quarters, he found himself cornered by a group of older students. Their faces were sharp, their bodies tense. You were the one who asked the question, one said. You spoke in class. What else do you know? Cathar hesitated. I know what you know. The professor confirmed it. Lies, another spat. You know more. Tell us, Velan. Tell us the truth. Cathar's heart raced. He could not reveal what he had seen in the restricted archives. If he did, the fear would grow worse. So he shook his head. The truth is already known. Humans are fertile without season. That is all. The older students narrowed their eyes. Then, with a hiss, they left. But Cathar knew this was only the ID beginning. The whispers had turned into suspicion and suspicion into fear. That night he sat in his quarters, staring at the stars. His journal lay open on the desk, the words of the last entry still glowing softly. He picked up his pen and began to write again. Day 5. The truth spreads. The academy is filled with fear. They speak of humans as if they are a disease, a storm that cannot be stopped. They do not see the love, the family, the beauty I saw in the files. They see only danger. I fear the council will use this fear. I fear they will twist it for power." His hand trembled. He pressed the pen harder, the strokes dark and sharp. "But I do not fear humans. I am unsettled, yes, but also curious." Perhaps the professor was right. Their fertility is more than survival. It is energy. It is passion. It is life. Others fear them because they cannot understand them. But maybe I can. He set the pen down and looked out at the endless dark of space. Somewhere, on a small blue planet, humans lived their restless lives. They laughed, they loved, they fought, and they dreamed. Always ready, always moving forward. Cathar whispered softly, "What kind of galaxy would this be if we feared them less and understood them more?" But outside his quarters, the storm was building. Word of the human truth had reached beyond the academy. Other stations began to whisper the same. Governments sent messages to the council. Some demanded tighter control, others demanded protection. Within days, the academy halls were filled with debates. Students formed groups, some calling humans a threat, others defending them. The whispers of fear had become arguments shouted in anger. One day, Cathar walked into the library and saw two students nearly come to blows. The reptilian Threx hissed loudly, his golden eyes blazing. "They will consume us. Their fertility is a weapon, and if we do not act, they will flood the stars with their kind." A soft-skinned Lyran student shouted back, "You are blind. Fertility is not war, it is life. Humans may be strange, but they are not monsters. They are people." The argument drew a crowd. Some sided with the Threx, others with the Lyran. The air was filled with anger, fear, and confusion. Cathar stood, apart, his chest heavy. He knew this was only the beginning. The truth about humans had escaped its cage, and now it was breaking the peace of the academy. That night, Professor Razil called a secret meeting. Only a few students were invited, and Cathar was one of them. The old professor's face looked more tired than ever. "The truth cannot be contained now," he said. "It is spreading across the stars. Soon governments will act. Some may call for peace, others for war. But remember this, fear grows faster than truth. You must decide what you will believe about humans before fear decides for you." Cathar nodded, his mind burning. He had discovered the truth. Now he had seen the fear. But what came next? He wrote in his journal once more before sleep. Day 6. The galaxy trembles. The truth of human fertility has escaped, and fear spreads faster than light. But fear is only half the story. I will not let the whispers decide the future. I will search for the whole truth. As the station drifted quietly through space, Cathar lay awake, staring at the stars. The fear was real. The danger was real. But so was the mystery, the wonder, the beauty. And deep inside he knew this was only the beginning. The confrontation. The academy felt different now. The once peaceful halls, filled with quiet study and calm voices, had become restless. Fear hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Groups of students argued in corners. Some demanded humans be treated as a threat. Others defended them as misunderstood. The whispers had grown into shouts, and those shouts had begun to divide the academy. Cathar walked silently through the noise. His black eyes saw the tension in every face. He could feel it pressing on him, heavy and sharp. And in the middle of it all, one truth burned in his mind. Humans are always ready. But what did it really mean? Was it a gift or a curse? Was it strength or danger? He had read the files, seen the secret reports. He knew both sides, the danger of endless numbers and the beauty of endless passion. But the more he thought, the more confused he became. He needed guidance. That was when the message came. A small drone floated into his quarters, its light blinking softly. It projected a simple message. "Meet me in the observatory. Come alone. Professor Russell." Cathar's chest tightened. The professor had never called him in private before. This was no ordinary lesson. This was something more. The observatory stood at the highest point of the academy, a vast dome of crystal glass. From there, the stars stretched endlessly, glowing in eternal silence. Kether entered quietly, his cloak wrapped around him. Professor. Raziel stood at the center, his hands clasped behind his back, his robe flowing like shadow. The starlight reflected on his aged face, and his eyes seemed heavy with thought. You came, the professor said softly, not turning. Yes, Kethar replied. His voice shook. You asked for me. I did, Raziel said. Because you are not like the others. You ask questions but not to spread fear. You ask because you wish to understand. That is rare. Kethar stepped closer, his heart beating hard. Then tell me the truth. No warnings, no riddles. What do humans truly mean to the galaxy? Why does their fertility cause such fear? For a long moment the professor was silent. The stars above seemed to listen. Then, slowly, Raziel turned to face him. Kethar, he said, his voice grave, you must understand that humans are more than a biological curiosity. Their fertility is only the surface. What lies beneath is far more dangerous and far more powerful. Kether's eyes widened. I don't understand. You will, Raziel said. Sit. They sat together on the observatory's edge, staring at the galaxy beyond. Every species, Raziel began, is bound by limits. The Jalari live by cycles of 50 years. The Threks are chained to their breeding season. Even your people, the Valons, live slowly, carefully, tied to the rhythm of your world. Limits shape us. They guide our societies. They force us to wait. Kethar nodded slowly. He had always known this truth. But humans, Raziel continued, his voice tightening, humans are not bound. They are not forced to wait. They are always ready to create life, always ready to move forward. And that readiness bleeds into everything they do. Kethar leaned forward. Everything? Everything, Raziel said firmly. Think of it. A species that can reproduce without season. What does that mean? It means they do not wait. They do not stop. Their bodies are always prepared, and so are their minds. While other races sleep, humans plan. While others wait, humans act. While others fall back, humans rise again. Kethar shivered. The words struck deep. Raziel's eyes grew darker. Do you know why the Council fears them, Kethar? It is not only because of their numbers. It is because humans carry this readiness into war, into invention, into survival itself. They are fertile not just in body but in spirit. They make ideas as easily as they make children. They adapt as easily as they breathe. And that is something no empire, no council, no ruler can truly control. The air grew heavy. Kethar's hands trembled. But, Professor, he whispered, if they are so strong, then why has the Council not destroyed them already? Why not end the threat? The professor's gaze turned toward the stars. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper. Because they cannot. Humanity does not break so easily. Empires have tried. Wars have burned. And yet the humans survive. Always, they survive. When their cities fall, they rebuild. When their people die, they grow again. They rise from ashes stronger than before. Tell me, Kethar, how do you defeat a species that never stops? Kethar had no answer. His mind spun, his chest heavy. The professor leaned closer, his eyes sharp. That is why the Council hides the truth. That is why they whisper in fear. Because humanity cannot be crushed, only contained. And even containment may fail. Their fertility ensures it. Their spirit ensures it. They are a wildfire in the forest of the galaxy. And you know what happens to those who try to cage fire. Kethar swallowed hard. He felt a chill run through him. Professor, he said softly, do you fear them too? Raziel was silent for a long time. At last he sighed. Yes. And no. I fear what they could do if angered. I fear what empires might do to them and what they would do in return. But I also admire them. I admire their strength, their passion, their refusal to bow to nature's chains. In truth, I think we all fear them because we see in them what we wish we had, the freedom to live without limits. Cathar stared at the stars, his mind filled with the professor's words. Fear and admiration twisted inside him like storm winds. Then what should I do? He asked quietly. I came here to learn. But now, everything feels heavier than learning. It feels like a choice. The professor placed a hand on his shoulder, his voice low. It is a choice. The galaxy will divide. Some will see humans as monsters. Some will see them as saviors. But the truth is not decided yet. It will be shaped by those who dare to look past fear. You, Cathar, must decide. Will you be one who fears them, or one who understands them? Cathar's chest ached. He wanted to answer, but his voice failed. Deep inside, he knew this was no longer just a study. It was a path, a dangerous, uncertain path. The stars above glowed brighter, as if listening. The silence stretched between them. Finally, the professor spoke again, his tone softer. Remember this, Cathar. Humans are always ready. Always. Not just for birth, not just for war, but for life itself. They will face every challenge, every storm, every wall in their path, and they will not stop. That is their strength. That is their danger. And that is their destiny. Cathar closed his eyes. The words echoed in him like thunder. When he opened them again, the galaxy seemed different. The stars no longer looked distant. They looked alive, burning with the same restless fire the professor had spoken of. Cathar whispered to himself, always ready. And he knew the professor was right. Later, back in his quarters, Cathar wrote in his journal again. His hand shook as he tried to put the night into words. Day 7. The professor spoke. He told me the truth. Humans are not only fertile in body, but in spirit. They are ready for anything. War, love, suffering, survival. The galaxy fears them because they cannot be stopped. And yet I feel something more. I feel admiration. I feel hope. He set the pen down, staring at the page. His black eyes reflected the words. The station was silent, but inside him the storm of discovery raged stronger than ever. He had faced the confrontation, and now he carried the weight of its truth. Humans were not just another species. They were something more. And deep inside, Cathar knew, his journey with humanity was only just beginning. The final reflection. The station orbited silently above the quiet blue star. From the outside it was calm, a shining jewel of knowledge floating in the endless void. But inside, the academy was no longer the same. Fear had grown roots. The truth about humanity, once whispered in secret, now moved freely in every hall. Some students gathered in tight groups, whispering of defense, of walls, of the need to contain the humans before it was too late. Others argued in anger, shouting that humans were not monsters but beings of flesh and spirit, deserving of respect. The air was heavy with division, and the peace of the academy had cracked. Cathar felt it all pressing against him. Every voice, every whisper, every argument seemed to circle around him like a storm. But inside, he carried something heavier still. The words of Professor Razil. Humans are not only fertile in body but in spirit. They are always ready. That is their strength, their danger, and their destiny. The words echoed in his mind with every step. One evening, when the academy halls were dim and quiet, Cathar sat alone in the observatory. The great dome stretched above him, filled with the infinite spread of stars. His black eyes shone with their reflection. He held his journal open in his lap, but tonight he did not write. Tonight, he thought. The professor had given him truth, but truth was heavy. It pulled at his chest, weighed on his hands, filled his mind with endless questions. What would happen to humanity now that their secret was spreading? Would the galaxy rise against them in fear? Would empires seek to cage them or worse, destroy them? And if so, would humans survive, as they always seem to do? Cathar imagined it, fleets of alien ships surrounding Earth, weapons pointed at the blue planet. He imagined the fire of war, the destruction of cities, the fall of towers. Yet in his vision he also saw something else. Humans rising from the ashes, rebuilding, growing again. Their children running through the ruins, their families holding, together, their spirit refusing to die. He shivered. The thought was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The observatory doors opened with a soft hiss. Cathar turned. Professor Razel entered slowly, his robe flowing like a dark river behind him. His face was lined with exhaustion, but his eyes still carried their sharp fire. "You come here often," the professor said quietly. Cathar nodded. "It is quiet here. The stars do not argue. They do not whisper. They only watch." Razel gave a faint smile. "Yes, the stars are honest in their silence." He stepped beside Cathar and looked out at the galaxy. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Cathar asked, "Professor, what will happen now? The Academy is breaking apart. The Council will hear of this soon. They will act on humanity." He trailed off, his voice heavy. The professor's expression hardened. "Yes, humanity will face storms. Some will call for their end. Others will fight to protect them. But the truth, Cathar, is that no matter what happens, the humans will endure. That is what they are. Endurance. Resilience. Fire that refuses to go out." Cathar lowered his head. "I do not know if I should fear them or admire them." "Perhaps both," Razel said softly. "To fear without admiration is to blind yourself. To admire without fear is to fool yourself. Balance is the only way to see them clearly." The professor left after a while, his steps slow, his figure swallowed by the dim halls. Cathar remained, staring at the stars until his chest ached. Then, he turned to his journal and began to write. Day 8. The Academy trembles. Fear grows like a disease, but so does curiosity. The professor says balance is the only way, fear and admiration side by side. Humans are danger, and humans are hope. They are chaos and they are beauty. Always ready, always moving forward. His hand stopped. The ink bled into the page. Slowly, he lifted his eyes to the stars once more. Always ready. The words no longer felt like simple truth. They felt like a warning. They felt like destiny. Days passed. The Academy sank deeper into division. Two groups began to form. Those who called themselves the Guardians, who wanted to protect humanity, and those who named themselves the Wardens, who wanted to contain them. Arguments grew sharper, louder, and in some cases violent. Cathar stayed silent, watching. Both sides pulled at him, demanding he choose, demanding he speak. But he refused. He did not yet know his place. He only knew that the truth was larger than either side could see. One night, as he walked the quiet corridors, a voice called out to him. It was the Threx reptilian student, his golden eyes glowing in the dim light. "You are close to the professor," the Threx hissed. "You know more than you admit. Tell me, Valen, what do you really believe about the humans?" Cathar's throat tightened. He wanted to answer, but no words came. The Threx studied him for a long moment, then gave a low growl. "Careful, Silver One. If you stand in the middle too long, the storm will tear you apart." With that, the reptilian turned and walked away, his heavy tail echoing in the hall. Cathar leaned against the wall, his chest heaving. The Threx was right. A storm was coming, and soon no one would be allowed to stand silent. Back in his quarters, Cathar opened his journal once more. His hand shook as he wrote, Day 12. The storm grows. I do not know my place. I do not know what I believe. But I feel the truth pressing closer. Humans are not only fertile in body or spirit, they are fertile in destiny. They will shape the galaxy, whether we wish it or not. And when that time comes, we must decide. Stand with them or stand against them. There will be no middle. The words frightened him, but he did not cross them out. They stayed on the page, heavy and real. He set down the pen and whispered to the empty room. What are you humans? What future do you carry? The final bell of the cycle rang across the academy. Students gathered once more in the great hall. The council had sent a message. Soon they would speak directly. Decisions would be made. Futures would be shaped. Kethar stood among the crowd, silent, his cloak wrapped tight. The air was thick with tension. Fear burned in some faces, anger in others. But in Kethar's heart, there was something else. Not fear, not anger, not even certainty. It was anticipation. He thought of the professor's words. He thought of the files he had seen, the reports of war, the stories of families, the images of love and survival. He thought of the whispers of extermination and of the whispers of hope. And in that moment, he understood one thing clearly. Humans were not just a species, they were a storm, and the galaxy stood at its edge waiting to see whether that storm would destroy or bring renewal. That night he wrote one last time in his journal. Final entry. The council prepares to speak. The academy divides. The galaxy waits. But I have chosen. I will not fear the humans. I will not worship them either. I will walk closer. I will learn, and I will understand. Because only by understanding can I know the truth. Humans are not finished. They are not even beginning. They are always ready. And when their time comes, we will all know it. He closed the journal and set it aside. His black eyes lifted to the stars. They shone brighter than ever, alive with fire. And in the silence of the observatory, Kethar whispered one final thought, a thought that carried across the endless dark. Humans, your story has only begun.